Waiting on Mark.
Is he the type of
Rick? Martin's ready. Everybody please rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody that's here and our new board member, Shane Smith. This is his first meeting after being appointed by the Greene County Council. First thing on the agenda is approval of our minutes from October. Has everybody had a chance to read those minutes and look them over?
I have. So I will make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion to approve those minutes. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Joshua makes a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The motion passes. Next, we have a public hearing on the allocation area. Marvin, do we need to do anything to actually open that meeting?
Well, normally you suspend the regular meeting, call the public hearing to order, and request comment.
Okay, we haven't had one in so long, I didn't know.
Understood, and we've not had an opportunity to speak about it.
We now will suspend our regular meeting and open the public hearing and entertain comments from the public. Do we have any comments?
Well, thank you guys for sending out the notice of the project and allowing us to come and speak. So my name's Scott Vandray. I'm the superintendent at Bloomfield School District, and probably and hopefully, like a lot of people, we appreciate and are looking forward to Project Prometheus and what it can bring to our county. We fully recognize the economic momentum it can create for the broader community, but why I want to come and speak is based on Senate Enrolled Act 1 and how that has given us a meaningful loss in anticipated revenue of what we thought we would be having over the next 3 years. And so Senate Enrolled Act 1 has changed how we can grow, and it really limits how we can grow our operational funding. And so through local property taxes, which means every little bit of assessed value in our district becomes increasingly important for sustaining the programs and services our students rely on. A project like Prometheus could, under the right circumstances, really help offset those losses. If new housing were built in Bloomfield School District boundaries, we could see new families, new students, and increased residential assessed value. Unfortunately, with our current infrastructure, when we think of utilities, broadband capacity, and really available housing, we cannot yet support significant residential growth. So based on our current conditions, and I hope I'm wrong, but it is more likely that employees that come for this new development will be living outside of our district boundaries. More likely Bloomington or other communities. And so if that occurs, we will gain no or very few new students and no or very limited new residential tax revenue, even though the development is located here. So because of these realities, Bloomfield School District respectfully requests consideration of Scenario 3. I appreciate that you shared 3 different scenarios that you're considering. And in Scenario 3, from the tax impact statement, it allows the new assessed value generated by Prometheus to flow to all taxing units, including the school district, rather than being fully captured by the TIF. This scenario protects the school district's financial stability during the Senate Enrolled Act 1 transition and helps ensure that local schools share in the growth created by a project that will place new demands on public services and community infrastructure. So just appreciate your thoughtful consideration and the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Excuse me. I'm sorry, I got something in my throat here. public?
Hi there. I'm Jessica McCamey. I'm the director of the Bloomfield Eastern Greene County Public Libraries. And Dr. Grandery actually made a very good point. We're in the same boat with Senate Enrolled Act 1. We are taking some significant hits from the library perspective. Resources are getting cut back. And so I agree, option 3, or scenario 3 seemed like the better option. Libraries.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, at this point we would close the public meeting. Do we need a motion to do so?
No, we normally just close them. So close the public meeting, reconvene the regular meeting.
Okay, at this point then we would consider the public meeting closed. Appreciate the comments. It's been several years since we've had a public meeting. And now we'll reopen our regular meeting. The first action was Resolution 2025 Tax 05. It's confirming the amendment of the Economic Development Plan. This is, I must confess, Marvin, can you explain this a little better to all of us, and especially we have a new member here?
This process has been through a number of steps.
Yep.
It started with a declaratory resolution from this body some months ago. I say some months ago because it has taken quite a bit of time to get a quorum of the Advisory Planning Commission together. Because that is the next step of the process once this body's declaratory resolution is adopted. The Planning Commission adopted its resolution favoring this action, and then that went to the county commissioners who also adopted the resolution. Now it has come back to us for a final confirmatory action. The confirmatory resolution simply confirms the declaration that you made at the beginning, that you are going to, assuming it's voted favorably, expand the allocation area, specifically allocation area number 5, identify the properties and property owners that are included in that allocation area, provide a map of the allocation area, and identify Prometheus Energetics, and only Prometheus Energetics, as a designated taxpayer for the purpose of, in this case, recovering personal property taxation. If the confirmatory resolution passes, then, of course, the growth increment of real estate values, as well as the increment recovered from or derived from construction within the allocation area, commercial, business, industrial construction, would that taxation would then be captured by the Redevelopment Commission for the purpose of using a significant portion of it for the economic incentives that were instrumental in persuading Prometheus to locate here, and also to providing revenue for this body over the course of 25 years, the length of the allocation area, or the duration of the allocation area, so that this body can participate in redevelopment of the allocation area. In this case, those funds would stay within the allocation area for development. And if things go as hoped for and as billed, there would be plenty of opportunity for that in the next 25 years. Yes, sir.
Question, clarification. You mentioned commercial and industrial construction, correct? And so if there was a housing development that were to go in somewhere in this allocation area, that would not be covered by this resolution, correct?
The only way a housing development would be covered would be if we then came back, excluded the housing development as an area and established a new allocation area for the purpose of a residential TIF district. Generally speaking, these do not affect residential properties, and residential improvements are not captured, are not a captured increment that would benefit the commission, or in this case, Prometheus.
Thank you.
I'd like to clarify, Marvin. We have two speakers. Does this impact what they were talking about?
Does this, could you clarify your question?
They spoke about us approving the third, oh, come on, John.
Scenario 3.
Third scenario.
Third scenario, I'm thinking of the word scenario. Does this involve the first, second, or third scenario? That's my question.
This is, I believe, the first scenario, isn't it, Jim?
First scenario.
It's really the second scenario.
Second,
Yeah.
pardon.
First is current situation, if I understood right.
Yeah, and I think to the extent of actual or potential impacts, or at least as an additional viewpoint on the impacts of SB1, I'd like to suggest that we allow Jim Higgins to make a few comments.
Sure. Third one.
Good morning, everybody. This act has been the bane of my existence for 9 months. So I would like, I prepared this last night just as an aside, but let me,
Thank you.
So first, let me talk about the tax impact statement and the Prometheus project. Prometheus is looking at investing approximately $80 million in the first year, right? And then, so that's in real property improvements, about $50 million, and $30 million in business personal property improvements. Now, that's their estimated cost. That's not what it will assess for. And so the estimated assessed values that come online are roughly $37.5 million in real property improvement and another 12 for the first year of the business personal property. And business personal property is a little different because it's subject to depreciation, right? So it's hard cost. $30 million is what gets entered into their tax form, and then it's subject to depreciation over the life of the issue. And after about 6 years, it hits the 30% floor, to the extent the 30% floor still exists, as the legislature keeps wanting to make that go away. And then that property, as long as it's in service and in perpetuity under the current law, is assessed at 30% of the value until it's deemed obsolete or taken out of service. So this impact statement is based on roughly $49.5 million of assessed value that's coming online. Shane explained this very well. The first scenario says, here's the current situation within Taylor Township where Prometheus will be located. And there are the tax rates, the assessed value, and the levies that are generated. Second scenario says, what happens if this assessed value comes online and none of that is spread to the other units? It's captured by this commission. What will happen is rates and levies stay the same. They still get the same amount of money. The Redevelopment Commission captures roughly $1.2 million, or I'm sorry, almost $2 million in incremental revenue. Now, I think as part of the incentive package to Prometheus that's attracting them to come here is you've agreed, or the county's agreed, to give them 80% of that increment over the course of the life of the issue. So the Redevelopment Commission would be capturing 20% of that as we go forward. And the county's making some other commitments that it's indicated for roads and other improvements that are needed out there. The third scenario says, for a taxpayer or for the other units, what happens if we don't capture, right? If we don't capture this incremental growth, the assessed value just naturally occurs. And so when we look at levies for local communities, the levy's generally frozen and allowed for a small growth by the state. Assessed value then is used to determine what the tax rate is to generate that levy, right? So it's all mathematical gymnastics.
Sure.
As the assessed value grows, levies held the same, tax rates drop. Assessed value shrinks, tax rates rise, levy stays the same, right? Levy doesn't move in this scenario. So if this naturally occurred, what you see happening is the tax rates of most entities go down. The levy change or variant only occurs to those units that have cumulative funds. That would be the county that has a Cume Bridge Fund and a Cume Cap Development Fund, and Taylor Township that has a Cume Fire Fund. Those are rate-sensitive funds. So as the assessed value increases, rate stays constant, they get more money. All right, so there's the switch. So what happens is the revenue that would be generated, new revenue that would be generated, is $37,000. That's what the county and Taylor Township would gain from this. What you would be foregoing is the $2 million that is necessary to attract them to be here. So the third scenario isn't really an option, because the option would be, you would say, well, in order to do this option, you would have to say we're not going to create the area, which means we're not going to capture increment, which means we're not going to have an incentive package for Prometheus, which means Prometheus isn't going to come.
So scenario 3 then would have no impact on the school and the library?
It has an impact, but the impact is relative to the circuit breaker, right? Because their levy's not going to change. We're not taking money away from the school. If it happened, natural growth, it doesn't necessarily benefit the school with new dollars because they don't have a Cume fund. I agree that the school is constricted, one, because of Senate Enrolled Act 1, which is a sheet that I passed out. I went back and looked at circuit breaker analysis that the DLGF has put together from 2021, which was publicly available, through 2025, estimated for what it was for 26, and then I showed some interesting facts on the levy percentage because I didn't want it to get overly complicated. But Senate Enrolled Act 1 made a couple of changes to the property tax system. First, it is systemically changing the way assessed value works because to deliver property tax relief. The first is we're going to give additional relief to non-homesteads, residential properties, and ag land. Ag land was always assessed at an amount per acre, and now they're going to get, over the next 6 years, a third of that reduced. And so if you had $1 million farm, In 6 years, that farm will assess at $600,000. We're going to take that away. Same thing with a home. If you have a $100,000 or $300,000 home today, it will assess for about $133,000 by the time you take the homestead deduction, the supplemental homestead deduction. In 6 years, it will go to 2/3. And so your $300,000 home will assess at $100,000. We're going to carve out $33,000 worth of assessed value. So over time, the state's plan is we're going to shrink assessed value. That has a huge impact to everybody. This just shows the difference between 25 and 26. The change in assessed value is very, very small because it's being phased in. The majority of this change is the way that the county is told to apply credits and deductions. It used to be that if you got a veterans credit or an over 65, deduction, that was taken off the assessed value, right? So we reduced assessed value for those people that qualify. Now we're saying that's not the case, that's a credit. So we're going to calculate what the assessed value is. We're going to calculate what your tax rate is. We're going to give you credit for the natural circuit breaker. And then if you are eligible for any of these other credits, an over 62, over 65 income or a veterans deduction, that's off the bottom line after the application of the circuit breaker. And then to throw on just a little additional, you get a 10% or $300 tax credit in addition to all that after the credit. That's why these numbers grow. Yeah. And you'll see, even at the county level, you went from what was an 8% levy loss in 2025 to a projected 15% levy loss in 2026. Now that won't grow incrementally like that over the next 6 years, but there will be small bumps in that. So the school corporation is going from a roughly, what did I calculate, a 3% levy loss in their circuit breaker to about an 8% levy loss. And the library equally from a 5.25 to 16.5. So there's the flip side of the property tax. That's just there, and I don't think anybody's looking to mess with that, although they've talked a lot about what they're going to do this legislative session. The offset to that was an increase in income taxes, that they said we would allow communities to increase income tax to make up for that. Well, that worked till you got into the details, because not only are they're going to allow you to adopt new income taxes, but they're going to eliminate the existing income tax that's there. So when you look at what you're getting versus what you're going to get, there's no new money there either. That's why they're all aflutter about making amendments. I think they're going to mess with the income tax side.
Well, that's all local income tax.
That's a local income tax.
And is it not true then too that the county is only going to get, we're not going to get as much of that because we have to pass it out?
There's a possibility, right? Communities over 3,500, as it stands now, can adopt their own tax.
Right. But
they can legislate.
It's limited at my understanding was there's a cap.
There's a cap of
on what the county can
2.7.
actually keep, and we have to actually give out the rest of it.
Well, you have two. The county has two rates. You have a countywide rate that can be like the 1.2, and you have a municipal rate that can also be at the 1.2. And the municipal rate for those entities that aren't 3,500 or more, you would share with that, and you would get to keep a portion of that as well under the current statute, because you have people that may live and have a Bloomfield address but don't live in Bloomfield proper, so they live out in the township. They're not going to pay that income tax to Bloomfield, that's going to go to the county. I don't know how they're going to do this. I think that's the other kind of, right? That's why they delayed.
Sorry, I'm not, it's just a mess.
That's why they delayed this 2 years, and I think they've really figured out it's a hot mess.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what.
So, and then a 0.3% rate for EMS and fire services that could be collected by the county and distributed to townships and fire departments. I think that's in for a major rewrite.
That's what I'm hearing
From what I
too.
understand, but the property tax side of it, they're not going to change that. They're not going to grant property tax relief in 1 year and then take it away in the next. They're going to mess with it around the edges, but this was all so that you could get essentially the vast majority of Hoosiers a $300 tax credit
Yeah.
with a $400 tax increase on the income tax side, right, or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's not a pretty picture. It is. I've got myself in trouble in live stream meetings for speaking my mind, so I'll try not to do that on a Friday morning before a holiday.
I'll go ahead.
But that's the reality of it. I mean, everybody, and that's why I showed you everybody in the county, right? You've got one in Wright Township, right? Their circuit breaker loss went from $2,000 in 2025 to $27,000 in 2026. Their whole levy is $16,000. They're not going to get anything from property tax in Wright Township. Nothing. Zero. Nada. And because they're a township, they're not going to get any income tax money. So I don't know what they do, right? I mean, that's just disaster. I don't think that was an intended result when they adopted this.
I think they were just looking at what was going to profit themselves and the legislature myself. So my thoughts.
I believe what they got and what they're, at the end of the day, this is where I get in trouble. The governor and the legislature are going to be able to look people in the eye and say, we delivered property tax relief.
Yeah, counties, you figure out how you're going to do any services.
And on the income tax side, when the people come back and say, yeah, but you raised my income tax, that wasn't us.
Yeah.
That was you guys.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean,
Right? That's what that's going to be. That's going to be an offset back and forth. But that's kind of the overview of Senate Bill 1 in my slightly jaded view of it. That's the explanation of the tax impact statement. I'd be happy to answer any questions you've got about that or the impact statement. But scenario 3 is not an option, because the option is you're not going to pass this resolution. We're not going to have an incentive to offer Prometheus, and they're not going to come.
Interesting.
I have a question, just because I've been in some of the earlier discussions. So Prometheus is not the only company moving into that area.
There may be others, but that's the one that we know.
So with other companies moving into the area, would they be covered under this?
No.
Real property improvements would,
Not under this resolution. This is Prometheus only.
well, real property improvements, if somebody else came in and built a building, that building would be covered and would be captured.
Okay.
If they invested business personal property in that, it would not. The reason that Prometheus is designated is because you can't just say, well, we're going to capture all business personal property tax in this SIP area. You have to designate a taxpayer, and you have to name them by name. And so in order to designate a subsequent improvement, we would have to go through the same steps. We would have to come to this body and get a declaratory resolution. We would have to go to the county commissioners. We would have to go to area plan. We would have to come back here for a public hearing and do that adoption. We'd have to go through that same process solely to designate that taxpayer. But yes, other real property improvements that happen over time will get captured.
Yeah. I was actually provided a list of potential people to come in, Shane, it's actually the National Security Industrial Hub is the name they gave to the munitions campus, where Prometheus, which is just the first tenant or first contractor to come in. And going back to your comments, and I think Karen hit on that, I've always looked at Senate Bill 1 as just pushing it down to the local level and let the county councils be the bad guys.
Well, but you can't push it down to the local level, because you can't fix it.
Yeah.
Well, the bad thing about it is too, okay, so you say local income tax, well, that sounds great. But if you're Indianapolis and you got 18,000 people, but you're talking Greene County and we've only got 33,000 people in the whole county. So
And they said you can fix it with a local income tax, but they're taking away your existing, so you're not getting any new. You gotta adopt the tax just to keep what you're getting, one. And two, they put a cap on it, so you can't
Right.
raise it to whatever you need.
Yeah.
And three, it's not stable, because it all drives on the economy. Economy's good now. 5 years from now, if the economy goes to hell in a handbasket and people are laid off and we're in a recession and rates are, income's down, collections are gonna be down, your expenses aren't gonna change, we're gonna have the same problem. We shifted a very stable tax base for a very unstable tax base.
I didn't understand the cap on the income, I didn't realize.
Yeah, there's a cap.
There's
It's a
a
mess.
tax on the amount of, or there's a cap on the amount of the tax rate that you can have, and therefore, and it's actually lower than what the current cap is now.
Well, it's just like with schools, they give us a 2% increase roughly, and then they took away our subsidy to pay for, that they can, the subsidy give us last year to pay for the textbook fees that we're not allowed to charge for, so it was just a wash,
When,
you know.
I'll stand on my soapbox for a second. When the state took the school operating rates off of the property tax levy and
Yeah.
turned that revenue over to the state, you gave up the keys to the car.
Yeah.
Because now your operations, your education piece is all controlled by what the state gives you.
Yep.
And you can raise money for capital projects and transportation needs and whatever within your levies. And a referendum, if you so need. As long as you don't have statewide officials coming to your community to knock doors to,
Yeah.
right, oppose it. And if the school district was to pass a referendum or consider a referendum, this increment that's being generated will be available to the school, right? We don't, the commission doesn't profit from a referendum rate. So when they pass a referendum, all of this increment is included in that assessed value to determine the rate of collection.
I mean, they're estimating that there's a possibility, that every school system in the state will have to
Have to have an operating.
have an operating referendum, every single one.
Yeah. Because that's the avenue that they were given, right? Which is an avenue that the county doesn't have, and the library doesn't have, right?
But we've also seen how they've passed too,
Yes.
so.
Not the bearer of good news on it, right?
Well, you're honest,
But
I mean,
well, that's why you're here, Jim, no,
I appreciate your honesty,
yeah.
know that.
There are two folks that spoke to you. Does this make sense at all, what he's saying, and whether you like it or not? I'm not asking you to like it, but...
You're asking if it makes sense, yes, and almost everything Mr. Higgins said I agree with. There's one I'm not sure on. When he's talking about the tax basis, I think he's giving you a really good picture of, you look at, so Bloomfield School District, you see that difference, and I like when he explained that the word is loss, so that means that tax revenue, we don't get to see it. So there's a difference there of what we were losing, and that jumps up a lot higher. The one thing that I guess I would ask, if you're letting me speak again, is with Project Prometheus, from what I learned about the whole process, did you guys hear about the process of why did they pick Greene County? What was it that incentivized them to come to Greene County? It's because of Crane, was what I learned, and that on all the other technical factors, step after step, as they were going through the process, why was Greene County staying on that list when they had all these technical factors they were looking for that we didn't qualify for? So my point to that question is, if you learned about the process the way I did, would they still have come if they weren't in a TIF district? Did they choose to come because they wanted to be next to Crane and that's their benefit? So So that would be my question to you is, would they have come? I think they still would have came because they want to be next to Crane and that benefit, which is awesome for Greene County. That is awesome for us. So I think if you go with scenario 3, I think they would still come. But I also understand what Mr. Higgins said, that that's probably not what they were promised. So then they would want to come back and fight the contract, that, you know, or whatever agreements that they put in. So I also understand that there's that. I'm just saying, I'm not convinced that they would not have come with or without the TIF district.
And I think there may be truth to that. But I would point out that Crane's an awfully big base, and it sits in 3 counties. So does it come to Greene County, or do the folks in Davies or Martin County put together a package to attract them there? I mean, that's, you know, people that are coming to Crane or coming to Westgate have a choice of where they're at. And 69 has been a blessing and a curse.
Yep.
Right? It opened all that up for development, and you're starting to see it. It's taken a couple of years, but you're starting to see it. But the people that are working in these places,
easier to live further
it's easier
away.
to come from Bloomington
Or Washington.
or from Washington than it is to be here. And it won't be till that dynamic changes, most likely with housing and other reasons for them to be here, that they can shift that mindset that says, I'd rather live here and go and do my stuff in Bloomington or Washington than I would, you know, just making the drive down 69. So again, a blessing and a curse. It opened you up for development, but you've got a chicken and an egg issue.
Yeah.
That was my point. I agree with Mr. Higgins. And he is right that they have a choice in the surrounding areas that may not have been Greene County.
I do know that Davis County worked to get Prometheus down there. Some folks on the Westgate board with me talked about that openly. Our conundrum is that we've already made these agreements, promises to Prometheus, which is scenario 2.
I don't know what you guys are, I didn't see anything on scenarios. Did I miss something?
The scenarios in
It's in here.
Memorandum
It's in this?
No.
memorandum here.
Memorandum.
Go to the back, the last pages of the memo.
Oh, okay, okay,
It's actually, since it's double-sided, it's the very back.
okay.
The very, if you just...
I mean, I'll speak a little bit. I mean, being the board president at Eastern, I mean, we're getting hit a lot harder than you all are. You know, if you look at the circuit breaker, I mean, and having been on this board for quite a while now, I will say that, you know, and I've been tracking Greene County's DOE enrollment numbers since 2006 and watching patterns. And outside of Linton, who's kind of keeping steady, the rest of us are just going down. I mean, I think it was, enrollment is down 22% of school-age kids across the county, including Linton. That's not good when the population is going down. What, the last census was 3% as our population went down. But school kids are going down around 22%. That's saying a lot right there. You know, I've talked to economic, Greene, there's no data that says, well, are people moving away because there's not enough opportunities? Or are people moving away because there's no place to live and put their kids here? I mean, we're tracking.
Maybe they're just not having kids. There's a lot of people not having kids.
Well, I'm just saying though, if you've got a population going down roughly 3%, but school enrollment's going down, well, I think last time I looked, 22% across the county. I mean, that's big numbers. That's an entire school. I don't know. We've got 2 issues. We don't have enough business to keep people here, I think. That's my opinion. And we have one major infrastructure issue that doesn't seem to want to improve. I think we all know who I'm talking about, that's holding back residential development. I mean, we've got a development in the Eastern Greene school area that has been scaled back dramatically because of that. And that's numbers, enrollment. So the way I see it is, to me, as somebody who, with my other hats being affected by this, anything we can do to get some business in here, to keep people here, and I understand that a lot of them are going to Bloomington. I mean,
The growth and sustainability of local government, and I'll put into that, counties, towns, cities, libraries, schools, are people.
yeah.
Right? It's rooftops. At the end of the day, if you're going to grow and survive, it's going to be on rooftops.
And rooftops, and that's two. I mean, I feel, I'm a big fan of the housing additions because they turn over faster. They're not hit, the property tax cap is not having as dramatic effect on it because, with a housing addition, it's not as long-term, as say a farm. It's nothing against farms. I live on a farm. And so that keeps
But
the
it's
tax
the
rate.
rooftops and the people, right? And the reason I say the rooftop, it's not so much property tax generated by that rooftop, because...
No, but it helps.
Right, because again, if you go back to the analysis, assessed value grows, levy stays the same, tax rates go down. So there's very little impact on the house. It's the people in the house and the income in the house. And it's the kids.
It's the enrollment numbers.
Right. So the schools benefit by having more houses because you have more people, the possibility for more kids. Local governments, because they could get income tax from that. And that's where it's at. I've preached this for years. It's coming. It's going to be those communities that are focused on bringing houses and creating quality of place, quality of life issues to attract people to be here, right? Or to be wherever. That's where, you look at the communities that aren't really impacted, Fishers, McCordsville, Noblesville, Carmel, Brownsburg, people. They've got business, they've got a good mix, but they've got people.
They got more local income tax too.
Yes.
Well, the question I was asking John, it doesn't sound like we've got a in-depth plan for where the TIF funds will be going.
Say again?
There's not a solid plan as far as where all the TIF funds will be going. We know there's some infrastructure improvements with the roadway.
Right, the 20%.
Yes, the 20% that we retained. So some of that 20% went towards promoting housing in the area, which sounds like that is something, I know some of the earlier meetings I watched, that was something this is focused on. That could have a net long-term impact for the schools that is positive. Versus if we don't bring Prometheus here at all, that impact's not going to happen.
I mean, that's the way I see it. I mean, frankly, we've got one utility problem that will help all of us.
I've dealt with that utility problem.
They'll have both our school systems,
Well, if you
because
don't bring
it's,
Prometheus here, then you're not going to get some of the other companies that are the satellites. So it's going to be a bigger trickle down than just not
no,
getting
I agree.
Prometheus.
I know, it's, like I said, our savior, if anything, like I said, is people.
And historically, from 1940 to about 1990, even 2000, Martin, Davis, and Greene counties supplied the most employees to Greene. A distant fourth was Monroe County. Monroe County has leapfrogged all three of these rural counties in supplying people to Greene because of one word: housing. One word.
I would add quality of life to that.
Huh?
I would add quality of life to that.
Quality of-
Having awesome employees out of Greene County, the quality of life issues.
Yeah, there's amenities over there, and quality of life, as you're calling it, and so it's, we need the housing, we need the amenities, and, wow, great discussion. Did you get your answer you're looking for on the scenarios, Karen?
Well, yes and no, because I guess I don't know, I missed this email from Foley, I guess. But I hadn't seen this, but
So we're going to take action today on this?
I think we have to.
Okay.
Okay, we have the resolution 2025.
No, trust me, I'm in the, huh?
I agree with what you're saying on, we just need the housing.
We do. And we've got one big issue that will help both of us if we can get it solved. Once that camera goes off.
Didn't mean for you to stand up there so long.
Thank you, sir.
That was a great discussion. Very important discussion. And with that said, then Marvin, we need to act on this resolution today.
Okay.
That's the plan.
That's the plan.
And given the public hearing took place today, while it could be tabled, I don't recommend that it be tabled.
Okay. With Marvin's comments, does anybody want to make a motion? I would entertain a motion on Resolution 2025 TAC 05.
I'll make a motion, we approve as is.
I'll second that.
Karen makes a motion to approve Resolution number 2025 TAC 05. A second is made by Shane. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, no problem, thanks for the invite.
Okay. Next on the agenda is our 2026 annual spending plan. And had this been promulgated earlier, Marvin? I don't remember seeing it.
Yes, I circulated it.
You did, that's right.
So this plan tracks what your cash flows, so typically the vast majority of your expenditures are for the existing debt that you have. The other $18,000 is roughly for professional fees and other services that are offered during the year. It's not a strict budget, it's just a plan that the state requires us to file by December 1st of each year.
Yes.
And can be amended and changed from time to time.
And we have done that.
Yes, and the vast majority, again, substantially all of your planned spending for 2026 is the debt service on the bonds. From TIF funds.
Yeah.
Remind me again when that's paid, 2030 something?
2030, which is about the time that the majority of your existing increment falls off.
Falls off.
Right, 87% of the increment that you're capturing today goes away in 2031. That's the peaker plant and everything that we started some 25 years ago.
What you're saying is we need to create some new revenue streams.
Well, and you just did.
Huh?
And you just did.
We just did, but maybe even more though. I mean, these things, they don't go in lockstep. I mean, you have to...
And that will be, when that falls off in 2030, will be impactful to White River Valley and to the county because that assessed value will be released.
Yeah.
Their assessed value will go up, levy remains the same, tax rates will come down. That'll be relief from the survey.
It's a no-win.
To get your signature,
Okay.
and could you start it around?
Yeah. It's a no-win
Right, there's no
situation.
discretionary spending then in this.
There can be with an amendment, it's just, when we look at the plan, the commission's been pretty lean on what they've done because of past issues. So, I mean, you won't see Prometheus revenue really until 2027 or 2028, depending on when they build and when they assess. So, there can be some additional spending, but I'm not sure what that would amount to with the county code today.
Yeah.
It just seems like a no-win situation anymore. You know,
There's not.
it's just,
Yeah. Well, I would entertain a motion to approve the 2026 annual spending plan.
I like the motion.
Scott makes a motion.
Second.
Here's a second by Joshua. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. The farm lease agreement. Sharon?
There's not a copy. I think Marvin still has it, but do you want to speak about Samuel Graber and his interest in taking it over, or?
What was his name again?
Samuel Graber?
Samuel Graber. Samuel Graber is a farmer who assisted Jim Melton last year. And Jim is ready, it sounds like, to give up farming, at least farming the properties that he's got here. But Mr. Graber is interested in picking up where Jim left off, assuming that he can get substantially the same terms. He is certainly willing to pay the same per acre price on the number of acres. The principal portion of that, of course, is the Davies County property where it is contemplated that the sewer plant will be constructed. We don't know when that's going to happen. You have to have $15–16 million to do what we really need to do. And while there have been promises made to work toward that, and times that we were supposed to have had an update, that update time was a time of disarray followed by a 45 or so day government shutdown. And so we're still at a standstill on that issue. Being it's a standstill, I don't see right now a likelihood that construction is going to start in 2026, and there's no reason not to pick up the revenue on this for 2026. So,
I spoke twice on the phone with Jim Melton. You're correct. His wife's actually been pushing him to retire now for a couple of years. They both have some health issues. Dixie, he has to help her around the house with a walker and all. This Samuel Graber is a neighbor. He knows him. We recommended him. It's fairly small plots of ground, frankly, that we have available up there. It's not like it's 500 acres or, some big property, but, and Marvin's accurate, this sewer plant thing, I advise Jim that, it's still in the works, we just don't know when. But the timing is just up in the air because of the money. Always revolves around the money. So, do you have a contract to go, Marvin, or we want to do it next month, or?
You were wanting to possibly add some language.
I was still reviewing some things. One of the things that I had under consideration, these contracts normally run until December 31st, but realistically, crops are generally out of the field by November 15th, if not sooner. And I was looking, one, at pulling that back a little bit on the contract date, and number two, revisiting some of the corrective measures to be taken if construction did start and somehow interfere with the growing season. Now, that's not going to happen in 2026, so I don't know that it's going to prove even relevant to the contract. But if we meet next month, then I think that I'll have things finalized and we can address it next month. If we don't meet next month, considering our regular meeting date would be December 25th.
What's the issue there?
Pardon me?
What's the issue there?
Nothing if you're a psychologist.
We're devoted to our county, aren't we?
So it's also something that can be addressed in January, but with a verbal to Mr. Graber that we're just in the process of finalizing and that he's got the part of share.
Wasn't there, didn't Mr. Melton like to have it done in November at some point because he put like lime or something on the fields? So
Now
they
that
might not
again,
want to wait,
that-
could we approve it pending revisions and then authorize the president to sign? I don't know.
I don't remember what kind of late fall preparation he was doing, and so you raise a good point, and I would be open to that as well. Another thing we've done on other boards is to approve in principle the terms of contract and to authorize the president to finalize negotiations and sign the agreement upon presentation of a satisfactory agreement, and that would work here as well.
I'm okay, it's not that much to...
So how much revenue are we talking?
Well, this, Jim just paid a total,
It's like $5,000.
Close to five.
I think it's like $5,000.
yeah, this looks, it's $4,354 at the $130 per acre rent. Across 4 properties included in the proposed lease, 3 of them in Greene County. It's a very small increment in Greene County, plus less than half of the total property in Davies County. He farmed a total of 33.49 acres. That varies just a little bit each year according to how wet things have been and what he is able and not able to farm because of wetness.
Okay.
So,
Do you need a motion to?
motion, if you want to, a motion to approve
Yeah.
and authorize the president to finalize negotiations and execute a contract.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Shane's made a motion, Scott seconded, that Marvin draft this, and I'd sign it at some later date. And any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you, sorry I have to...
Scott has to leave, but we still have a quorum. And, okay. Moving on, we have 3 claims. Some mowing by Big Bear Ridge, a very small claim of $75, $1,360 for the sewer study by Westlaw Engineering, and then $6,400 from Barnes and Thornburg for legal services. And there's a possibility, a good possibility, we could be reimbursed for that money down the road by the Prometheus people. I'd entertain a motion, we pay the 3 claims.
I make that motion.
Joshua makes the motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Karen seconds, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The motion passes. Brianne is not here to give a Greene County Economic Development report. Josh, do you have anything, you're on our board there, the president, do you?
Regarding the housing that was discussed, I know that she has identified 3 properties and is working toward what has to happen at each property, and then intends to push toward development of the most ready properties and go in order that way to make housing a priority. I know that she's met with, I believe there is a company that is looking to move into this area. I was not given a name. Wouldn't be appropriate in a public meeting anyway. And she's working with that team to see what would be available in this area for them.
Okay. Any questions? It's good to hear that she's working on housing. That is just, that's so critical. On the Westgate report, excuse me, there is so much going on down at Westgate. Brian is not here, but he's trying to form an owners association to have CCRs in place, form a separate corporation, and with bylaws, he would come with each of the 3 counties to try to have standard CCRs, so each county doesn't have different ones.
Define CCR for me.
Oh, come on, John, CCR is already,
Covenants, conditions, and restrictions.
there you go.
Thank you.
I just use the phrase so casually. It's covenants.
Gotcha.
And but also, a contract was awarded to Reed and Son of $1.8 million for water down there. There's almost, this is a floating number here, folks, and Brian put this out, $3 billion worth of projects going on at Westgate. That's the hypersonics, the khaki building, RCE, which is the radiation combined effects.
Yep.
There's started some land work right east of the academy for a building. I hear huge numbers, 150,000 square feet, 180,000 square feet building going next to the academy.
2 buildings.
Two,
Two buildings potentially.
yes. I mean, it's kind of up in the air, obviously. But there's just so much going on. We've already talked a little bit about the wastewater, water, the importance of all that, and the infrastructure down there. There was some emails here in the last few weeks. Davis County was offered 30-some thousand for acreage south of 558 that has no infrastructure. Gives you an idea of the property value. I put the numbers together. We're still working on the Bob Jackson farm. That has just dragged on forever to get that put in place. And you saw my email maybe about how much he's going to make that little farm just for walking trails. It's enormous. Now I'm looking for the numbers, I thought I had them with me, but it's 2.9 million or something like that for 87 acres. Also, I had a 45-minute discussion about 3 weeks ago. I was called by a fellow about a restaurant next to the hotel. He then called me yesterday. He and his wife are very, very interested. They own a restaurant down at Shoals. Jared Braun, who's on the Westgate Authority, retired from Greene, he says they're very good people and do a good job. He's supposed to get back again. That was part of that just emails to Joshua about the values and everything, remember? Then, and it may be what Joshua was alluding to, there's another company that Brienne brought to us, or to me. I gotta be careful when I talk to these people is to make it clear to them, dual-headed with Westgate and Redevelopment, which hat I'm wearing. These people come out of Georgia and they're looking at Progress Point. We've traded 6 or 8 emails. He's talking some residential. He kind of concurred with my thoughts of maybe light commercial. I'm talking on the east side of the road going to the hotel where you'd have maybe light commercial like beauty shop, lawyer's office, whatever on the first floor, then apartments on the second or third. He talked about different apartments. He said they don't currently have a restaurant in their portfolio, but they're not opposed to developing one. They actually talk about apartments with patios, fitness centers, so they were talking high-end type housing. He called them B+ to A facilities. He's well aware of the munitions campus. These people are coming up. They were going to come up on November 10th. They postponed it to December 9th. December 9th, I'll be down there. There's so much going on, I must confess, it's confusing at times. There's a defense conference going on from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock roughly at the academy. Then the Westgate Authority meeting will be after that. And these people wanted to come up for both meetings to talk about Progress Point. But they understand that this body here owns Progress Point, not Westgate. But what it is, they want to know what's going on at Westgate. They don't want to make an investment without hearing that there's growth, there's things going on that would make their investment profitable. Excuse me, I've had a frog in my throat all day here, I'm sorry, very sorry. Also, in all my different notes here, back on last week, November 11th and 12th, Senator Jim Banks had a defense summit up at Fort Wayne. Westgate did have a table there. Brian Niehoff manned that table. Secretary of Defense Hickseth was there and spoke, and he specifically mentioned Crane. That's how well known Crane has risen in the eyes of the Defense Department, what's going on, and that he would actually know that much, so there's a lot of positives going on, and Brian was there to promote Westgate and for different tenants, and he did make a few not commitments, but new people that he met, talked to about maybe coming to Westgate. And he has nothing to do, by the way, with the munitions campus. That's outside Westgate. So that's ours. Okay. And then the new Office of Entrepreneurship and Innovation. It now has 2 employees. And they're who now are over all the tech parks. It was taken away from IEDC and separated. And they did this with the last legislature, Governor Braun, and here we are in November, and they just added a second employee. So they're really trying to find their way, and so it's a lady named Rachel, who I talked to on the phone now a couple times. And our funding for the year, which normally comes in October, will supposedly come any time now. But they're just trying to find their way. Governor Braun, is something you may have read, he replaced the entire board of directors at the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, and it became very messy. But that's all coming together a little bit, and so just a lot going on, just a lot. With what's going on with us, that's what makes that housing so critical. Because there's so many new jobs that are going to be coming. We're working on a daycare center down there. That study went out. We're meeting on Monday with some people about it. And Greg Jones actually guesstimated that the daycare center should try to be certified for up to 200 children. That's a big daycare. That's how many people at Westgate, Crane, and the surrounding area would like to have one. Give an example, the big daycare they used to have here at the Baptist Church in town, I think was certified for about 80 children. And so that's how many, and he also Greg guesstimates, because of all this building that's going on, that the number of employees at Westgate Tech Park will double in the next 3 years or so. And, I'm sorry, my phone keeps going off. Always kind of wants to make sure it's not Barb with a problem. And, so anyhow, that's my report, but the point is, there's just so much, right now it's exploding down there. And I think Shane could attest to the requirements that are being put on REMC because they service Westgate for power.
Yeah, we just responded to an RFP and 2 requests for listserv letters last week for very large projects. So, and that's in addition to all the projects either under construction or with dirt work going. So
Yeah, it's exploding on us, and that's why I put out that email talking a little bit about we should be looking as a commission about getting some other properties in Greene County, getting control of some properties, because we really don't control that much property. In Martin County section, their CTP is essentially full. They're out of space, out of ground. Davis County is rapidly running out of ground. So it's coming our way, in a sense. It's going to move to the north. Dale Ankrum, he projected that to happen 10 years ago. And it's starting to happen. And so I think we need to be proactive and be looking at these other properties, thinking about them, and go from there. So that's my report. Any questions, thoughts, concerns? Good. Okay. Moving along then. Our next meeting is scheduled for Christmas Day. I wouldn't anticipate too many being here. We need to reschedule. Looking at a calendar. Would you want to move it up to the 18th or 19th of December, move it up a week?
So I can tell you, basically those 2 weeks, the only date I could make it to 16th. Kind of the short notice, I didn't have an opportunity to block some time off on my calendar, but
16th.
But I don't know what that would conflict with.
The 16th is a Tuesday. The commissioners will be in the room at 9:30, followed by the EMS board at 10:30.
So it may just be that I can't make December, but
The 18th is the Regional Sewer District meeting at 8:30. Yes, Joshua?
Is there pressing business that has to be addressed at the December meeting?
Nothing that I am aware of is pressing. One thing that we're not going to meet on Christmas Day anyway. If you want to move the meeting, give it a couple of weeks to see what develops and give the president authority to cancel the meeting.
Okay.
That would be an acceptable approach. Then the question is what day, with no disrespect to Shane's schedule, the 19th under those circumstances is a Friday and would be a good day for a meeting that might not be a meeting.
I would propose we move it to December 19th.
Authorize the president to cancel.
Absolutely.
No pressing business.
Okay, so Joshua makes a motion that we restate the motion, Joshua, I have it right.
I propose a motion that we move the meeting to December 19th at 8:30 a.m. With the caveat that you have the authority to cancel the meeting should it be determined that is warranted.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure. We have a motion on the floor by Joshua. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Karen seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any nays? The motion passes. Then, in January, we have a conflict with the building corporation. What's the RDA, Marvin?
Redevelopment Authority,
The authority.
they'll be holding their annual reorganizational meetings that day, which is part of what you'll be doing at your January meeting.
Yes, okay. Just wanted to make sure that's who it was. They don't meet very often.
That's true.
And it's really quick, so if you want to
They're
just
usually
do the time.
pretty quick. We can shoot for 9 o'clock if you think that won't be a problem for Scott on the fourth Thursday. The rest of the year, things can be taken as they come up unless Sharon's already aware of holiday conflicts.
Yeah.
Again, it's going to be Thanksgiving and Christmas, but we can look at that later on, probably the budget hearings, but
Yeah.
that's not for quite a while.
So is the idea to leave it on the 22nd and just shift it to 9?
Fourth Thursday with January
Would be
being
22nd.
shifted to 9.
Okay. I'd make that motion.
Okay. So it's scheduled for the 29th of January,
It'd be the
22nd. And you're proposing we move it to the 29th?
No, I said leave it on the 22nd, but move it to 9 p.m.
9 o'clock, okay.
Or 9 a.m., jeez.
The 22nd, you said, of January?
Yeah, because the first is on a Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, 1, 2. I couldn't count. Turns out there's 5 Thursdays in that month. That's where I was getting
Yep.
lost. Okay. So we have a motion by Shane.
Second.
And second by Joshua. We move the meeting time back to 9 o'clock
9 a.m.
on the 22nd. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The motion passes. Okay. And I'm sorry, I've had 3 phone calls and 5 text messages while we're sitting here. So I've been distracted a little bit. I don't know what they are, but I make sure it's not Barb. Okay, is there anything else to come? Yes, Mark?
I'll keep it brief. 2 things. Has everyone signed the resolution?
Nope.
Close. I'll pick it up, or Sharon can pick it up. The other thing that I wanted to bring to your attention, just as a reminder, is that the work of the Redevelopment Commission and the Regional Sewer District are both integral to development in the county, and in that sense, you work or could be working more closely, hand in hand. I want to offer the same thing to you that I did to the sewer district yesterday. The meetings are open and public. They would love to have 1 or more of you in attendance. If you're not able to attend and can make the time to watch their meeting recordings, because you'll be more informed, maybe not more informed than John, but you'll be more informed generally about what's going on with the sewer district and where the challenges, problems, and needs are. John made the point earlier in the meeting that the development and the potential for development is absolutely crazy right now. I'm sure that he knows things that he can't go into detail about. I know some things that I can't go into detail about. But I also know that sewer district public records do reveal things about potentially 2 new buildings in the tech park that, of course, will need infrastructure. And so be informed, come to the meetings if you can, watch the meetings if you can't, ask me questions. I'll answer as much as I can. And know that you need the sewer board as much as they need you. Enough said.
I also had something, we didn't really vote on a meeting 2026 schedule.
Did we not?
We kind of just moved the meeting, so do we want to incorporate that, or are we going to continue to meet at the same 4th?
That's a good point, Sharon.
Yeah, I guess I heard the motion and lost track of the fact that the vote
I just had a
was...
shell of my minutes, and I'm like, okay, I don't have anything filled in for that, so.
Yeah, no, she's correct. What she's talking about is, we normally in December or November set our meeting schedule for the coming year. And do we want to keep it the way it's been? I know for, Chris is no longer with us, but her and Scott preferred the early meeting.
I believe there had been a motion, hadn't there, for fourth Thursday at 8:30 with the exception of January?
Was that the motion?
I thought that was the,
I was just voting on January, so that was the motion.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was just January.
Okay, I thought so
No,
too.
it was intended to be the full year, so my mistake. At least
We need another, that means we need another motion.
According to my notes, unless you want to say that was part of the motion, it won't hurt to have another motion.
No, it won't. I'd entertain a motion that for our meeting dates for calendar year 2026, to be at 8:30 on Thursdays.
Fourth Thursday.
The fourth Thursday.
I make that motion.
Joshua makes the motion.
Second.
Shane seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Okay, and thanks for the clarification there, that's really what it is, Sharon. Shane, they keep us in line.
I was gonna say, I can already tell.
Well, yeah, part of them thinks he's the boss, but
I have the license, she gets it done.
and there you go, she's the glue. No, we appreciate Sharon very much. Any other thoughts or questions, concerns? And thank you, Jim, for that is so, Senate Bill 1 just, I don't know what words to use, but I use the word messy, but it's just is what it is. But thank you for coming, and we appreciate your services, that's for sure. I would entertain a motion, we adjourn.
So move.
Ken makes the motion, Joshua seconds. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. You notice I don't take any discussion on that one.